Hello everybody and welcome to another little update video here on the just kind of state of the game. This one isn't just a affiliation list update, although we are going to be talking briefly about that, but we also have an update to the banned and restricted list. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this, and we'll start out with the affiliation list. This one's a little bit less interesting. But yeah, so Angel and Archangel have been added, and presumably Apocalypse, but I'm actually noticing Servants of Apocalypse is not listed on here. They have their own list for semi-obvious reasons. But yeah, so Angel has been added to the X-Men affiliation, notably not Archangel as well, so just Angel in his original form here. And then scrolling down a little further, we have Archangel in the X-Force affiliation. As far as I could tell, just giving a quick scroll through the document, no other affiliations listed for either of those characters. So it's just X-Men and X-Force. Oh, and then Servants of Apocalypse is here. So yeah, we have Archangel here and no Angel as we were already aware of. So yeah, that's a pretty short update there. I mean, we were all expecting Angel and X-Men. Archangel and X-Force doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Yeah, I think both of these could have been relatively easily called. A little bit disappointed they're not anywhere else. Would have been neat to see someone like Angel in maybe New Mutants or something like that. I know it wouldn't quite make sense because Angel is one of the older mutants, but would have been interesting just to see a little bit more support given to the new faction. But yeah, nothing too groundbreaking there. The really exciting news is, of course, this document here where we have our new updates to the banned and restricted list, where it is just restricted. So a little bit of a just the restricted list being updated here, not the ban list. But yeah, a few major changes here. So the first one is that a crisis card for the first time is being restricted, and that is Research Station. I'll zoom in a little bit here, make it easier for you guys to read that. Um, but yeah, so Research Station is restricted. This is a big deal. This is going to affect a lot of my lists, which are rather unfortunate because I actually quite like Research Station. But I know a lot of people were calling for something to be done about it because it is really heavily favoring those more attrition-focused teams, and there are particularly a handful of teams that are really abusing it in the current metagame. So makes sense to see that being added to this list here. So. Alrighty, fair enough. Yeah, that's going to have a huge impact on the meta. I'm curious to see how many lists are going to accept that and drop one of their restricted slots versus, just trying to switch to a different objective. I have a feeling it's going to be the former. I think a lot of lists, particularly a lot of places running Thanos, a lot of those places that are really a fan of that, it's not just the fact that it's 1 point in the middle, but it's also the fact that it's 15 threat. Those affiliations are going to really want to hang on to Research Station. So I'm really glad they restricted it. They didn't ban it. I think it's important that it's in the game or something like it is in the game. But it's definitely something that is answering something the community's been asking for a little bit now. So yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. I'm really curious. It's definitely throwing off a lot of my lists. A lot of things that I like to do will unfortunately not be able to take Research Station anymore. My Avengers list, which has already kind of been in shambles lately, is basically destroyed. It's rather unfortunate there because I can't give my two restricted slots up in that list for what it was trying to do. At that point, I shouldn't be running Researcher anymore. So it's kind of a weird thing where for me personally, this kind of sucks because I wasn't running a lot of the really disgusting things at 15 on Researcher, but I understand why something had to be done about it. So that makes sense. The next one here is Brothers in Arms. This has to be one of the fastest turnaround times I have seen AMG decide to restrict or ban or modify something that, for balance reasons, not just a like, oh, this was misworded or something like that. This came out fast. Yeah, obviously Brothers in Arms has been around for a while, but for those who aren't aware, right now Asgard is absolutely tearing up the meta with a 15 threat Thor, Beta Ray, and Loki list, which is just doing absolutely insane things with Brothers in Arms, putting Thor up to, I want to say it's 10 dice builders. It's absolutely insane. This card was kind of meh at best when we only had old Thor, But with new Thor, this card skyrocketed into being a problematic card for a lot of people, and I don't disagree. Having played against it a couple times now, it is really, really hard hitting. So yeah, makes sense that that's restricted, and very glad to see that happen. This is going to particularly hit the Asgard 15 really hard, and I think something needed to hit them. So I'm glad something is. Because they are running both of these cards. So, Research Station obviously allows them to have that dream scenario more often, and Brothers in Arms being kind of part of what makes it so good for them. So, yeah, this is really, really feels like a direct response from AMG about the current kind of Asgard 15 running a riot, and I'm glad to see that quick turnaround. I have my suspicion that they kind of looked at this before they released the new Thor and were like, okay, Brothers in Arms might be a problem. They released it. They let it sit for a tiny bit, see, let people play around with it. Let's see if the meta settles and if it ends up being something that feels like a problem, and then if it looks like it is going to be one, um, restrict it. And I respect that it wasn't restricted, on Thor's release or anything like that. But I'm really, really happy to see that quick turnaround of, like, Thor's only been out for what, maybe a couple months. Don't remember exactly when he released, but I swear it can't have been earlier than August, so not that long ago. And yeah, it's fantastic to see them turning around and listening to seeing potential problems in the meta and fixing them right away. So that's great. The next card they chose to restrict here is Fallback, which is a really interesting inclusion. Fallback was kind of becoming one of those more default cards that a lot of people were just including now because a lot of the other good ones were now rotated out. So yeah, that's really, really interesting that Fallback is being added to the restricted list here. That's definitely something worth acknowledging because yeah, I mean it's a really, really good card. I think it's still worth considering at least, but personally, I don't know if I'm going to be playing it all that much now that it's been added to the restricted list. It's definitely not beating Brace for me in many cases. And then in some lists, I'm probably going to take something like Research Station. Other lists, I might be taking Sacrifice or Indomitable if I'm playing some of those larger lads. So it probably doesn't quite make the cut for me very often anymore. I might bring it on occasion still here and there, but probably not, which is always kind of an interesting stance with a card where it's like, it's too good unrestricted, but it's not quite good enough to be restricted sort of thing. But we'll see. That might just be me. Maybe there's going to be tons of people still bringing it. I could very easily see something like, Web Warriors or other more kind of objective focused teams are definitely still wanting to bring that card. So I do like that, in a kind of more, a thing that's hitting a lot of attrition teams and then the best attrition team right now, they're also bringing something to kind of tap the objective team so they don't get too far of a lead with that sort of change. So that's always nice to see. But yeah, that's really, really interesting inclusions here, and I'm always for this list being updated, semi-frequently. So that's just great to see. The other card worth talking about here, the other update that came out today, was the rotation list was changed a little bit as well, and Warpath is back in the game. So this is really interesting, and I'm actually super happy to see it. I think this card is really, really good. And again, it's something that's good for those attrition teams. So even though they just took a big hit, they're getting at least something back out of it. So that's really, really nice to see. I personally really like this card. I think it was a little underplayed in, the pre-rotation kind of game state, I guess. But after the rotation, it was one of those cards where I was really like, oh man, this would have made the cut, with all these other cards I was playing rotated out, but unfortunately it won't. So really glad to see it in because I think it's a card that is probably going to see a lot of play, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it end up like on the restricted list or something like that in the near future. But it's a really fun card, and yeah, I'm here for that. So definitely happy about that. And once again, just really happy to see that AMG is, updating these lists fairly frequently. And that is going to do it for this little update video here. I just wanted to kind of quickly throw my thoughts on some of the game changes that had come out here. I'm getting to this a tiny bit late. It came out during the evening and I was unfortunately at a local games night. So this is either going up the Friday night or relatively early the Saturday. I haven't quite decided yet. So that is a little bit later than I usually like to get these out. I like to try and get them, within a couple hours when I can, but unfortunately not the world we live in this time. So I do apologize for that. But yeah, just really excited about these changes, and I love to see that they are changing things. So definitely let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys think these changes are good for the health of the game? Are you upset because they ruined some of your lists? Definitely voice your opinions down below. I'm very curious to hear what some of the different stances are on these changes. Does this affect you at all? Is this something where maybe, maybe you've lost something, like maybe you were playing Fallback or you're playing Researcher, but you weren't using it in a particularly abusive way. How is that feeling for you? Do you feel like it's ruining some less abused game plans and you would have preferred if other things had been hit instead? That's definitely an interesting thing to kind of consider. And in which case, what other things do you think might still need to kind of take this kind of restricted treatment or something like that? I'm very curious to hear what you guys are thinking. But yeah, that is going to do it for my thoughts on this. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do a lot of kind of discussion focused content during the weekdays and, updates like this whenever they come out. And we also have battle reports and things like that on the weekends. So if you're a fan of any of that sort of stuff, feel free to jump on in. But that's going to do it for me. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.